Here's a quick set of hand exercises that will work fingers, hand, wrists, and a few other things. And if you go through the whole thing, it will leave you ready for whatever you need to do. Like a lot of people who grew up in the 80s who were into martial arts, I saw Sho Kosugi's movies and I paused them and learned how he would do things like this, the signs of the nin, supposedly. And it's not like that because the fingers are stretched in all the wrong way. It's not very even. This is really worked, put together to try to make everything feel good and to work everything. Let's begin, and I'll talk about it a little bit more afterwards. Start off with, you're going to have your fingers together, and I wanted a camera to catch me from behind, but it's not easy to do that. So we'll do it from the front and I'll just show a few different angles. It's all pretty straightforward, but people don't do these. A lot of people who should, such as musicians, don't do these. Right, hands together, and you want your fingertips lined up, and then you take them out, and you might have to realign them as you go, and you want them ready to put quite a bit of pressure on them. And you might notice here, my little finger here isn't quite in the same alignment. That's because it's the weakest finger I've got, and you've got to be careful. Don't let it do that or anything like that. You've got to keep it very even, and you put on a fair bit of pressure. And I bench pressed yesterday, so I can feel my pectorals, can feel my shoulders. Come out a little bit, come in a little bit, go like this and like this, and it's maintaining the pressure. And now I tend to change focus, so I'm focusing on these two fingers and putting most pressure on those. And because you've got 5 fingers involved, you can put a lot of pressure in. Now I'm moving towards these 2 fingers, and now I'm moving back to the thumb, and everything's warming up. I don't mean in the sense of warming up the joints, but everything feels pretty warm and hot, and it's quite hard. There's lots of pressure involved. Then we relax. Now you clasp your fingers together, and I like to do this for the wrists, and sometimes I get pain, particularly in my left wrist since I had an injury, and you can probably just about hear that clicking, and it ought to have stopped by the time I'm finished. Now you could easily get this and just do that. That's not the point. You want some pressure, and the muscles are engaged as you move into these different angles, and it's a really good twist for the wrist, and it puts a little bit of pressure on muscles, joints, ligaments, in just about every position they could be in. And this isn't with a complete lack of force. I wonder if arm wrestlers do this. They ought to. Now back to pushing together, but we'll keep the hand together this time and just widen them quite a bit, as much as we can. And then we'll take the palm apart, and you're pushing in, and the way you do this, that's it. You can just see it's trying to push the fingers apart. It's only so far you can go, and when you put your heels of your hands together, it stops pushing apart. Unfortunately, it's not a way to really extend reach. Now I can definitely feel that everything's been moving. Now going to begin to stretch. Finger against the palm of the other hand. You're not going crazy. Just stretch it until you can feel it, and you should feel a little bit of a burn down here. If you really want to stretch, you probably keep all your other fingers together, but that's not what I'm doing here. This isn't stretching to increase flexibility. It's just giving yourself a good warm up and making sure you don't lose any flexibility. Now, this is something that's not easy to replicate in most exercises, so it is important to do, I think. I noticed this a long time ago when I was doing other hand exercises as a musician, and there's not much consideration given to this. And using 2 fingers of this hand and just one here, and you're just squeezing it together. And the same here. And of course, when I get to the next pair of fingers on my right hand, there's no strength there, nothing. So you can just do that. And the same with the other. So I'm using 4 fingers here, 2 fingers on each side essentially, and I'm squeezing in with the active, the working left hand, and the same in the next position. And this is a stretch as well, but it's working the muscle. Oh, I've got nothing there, and that surprises me because I use the little finger of the left hand a lot more. than the right hand. Clearly I should do this more often. Now that's done, going to clasp again and do rotating. There's a bit of clicking, you might have heard that, but there's a lot more clicking before. Now, right together, bit of pressure. Here's where we're moving on more to the wrists, and this I will find will make my shoulders ache a little bit, probably my pectorals, but that's really because I bench pressed yesterday. Okay, you put together with some force, then you push out, back in, and see if you can point towards yourself, which I think I'm just about doing, although you can't see it very clearly. Out again, and this will warm your wrist up and it will make them sore. Now you go to one side and you push a bit to that side, straight up, force maintained all the time, and back. And I can feel that in my biceps, I can feel that quite a bit. And then straight and back, straight up, to the side, push out a bit, to the centre, push out a bit, and then come back to the centre, push out. And I do this for my hand, wrists and fingers, but you can really feel this on the chest. I'm not suggesting you replace weight training with it, but you can feel this in a lot of ways. And if you were doing a good 10, 15 minutes of this, say 3 sets, you really would know about it. Now a little higher and to one side. And if it looks at all like something you might see on some Asian statues or even old pieces of artwork, then perhaps it's because it was a good way to maintain flexibility. And it's something people did for that reason. And I'm going to say at this stage, my fingers are ready for anything I'm going to do. I know a lot of musicians have trouble warming up, especially when you have to turn up in dark and dingy places and the people you're playing for don't really care about your inconvenience and they don't do anything to assist you. Now my fingers really are ready to go. Part of the reason I did this last night is I've been handling screwdrivers quite a bit recently, and that does make my hands a bit sore, and this is quite good for that. One more stretch on the fingers, going to go just a little bit further than last time, and here you really feel a burn there, and that's pulling skin as well as things inside, and you can actually feel this up your forearm a little bit. So you're not wrenching your finger back. If you've had an accident with your finger, various sorts of ways, perhaps training the martial arts, and you caught your finger in a bad way, it hurts and it doesn't take much. You could just push a little bit further and your little finger's really, really badly damaged, and you're not trying to do that. And that's it. So that's a really good stretch. A bit more of this. I think we finish off by aligning them, a bit more force, pushing them together. Oh, one more there. And that I really feel. Back. One more there. And that. And that's a good stretch for the wrists. And I think once you've done all of that, your hands are ready. If you do that regularly, then you should strengthen your wrists, you should keep them in good shape, and you'll definitely be warmed up and flexible. I do this because I've been a musician for a long time. I've been a musician more than a martial artist, although I actually started training in martial arts 10 years before I became a musician. Still, it's something I have experience in, not just because I want to work at it and learn about it, but because I've had to do it and had to keep things moving. And I know a lot of musicians who play quite a bit who don't do anything like this to look after their hands, and that's a bad idea, especially as you get older. I notice now in my 50s, I used to be able to pick up a bass guitar, which is my main instrument, and after 5-10 minutes of warming, I was ready to do what I needed to. Now, I need 20 minutes, maybe even half hour, and then after half hour of playing simple stuff, then I start to think, right, that's it, the fingers are doing what they ought to do. That's it. I thought I'd start without talking about the video and just get into it, so anyone who wants to do it can do it, and I hope it's of use to some people. Obviously very good for musicians. It's good for everyone. everybody's fingers suffer as they get older. Everybody, especially if you don't do other exercises, your wrist strength suffers, and this is a very good way to keep it up. I would say if you do that 3 times a week, just what I've done now, then you'll maintain strength. If you do 2 sets of it 3 times a week, you're probably going to get stronger. And for once, I'm recommending something for hand strength that doesn't involve Blu Tack, which is really good for hand strength. That's it then, quick video, nice and simple, not much editing involved. Thanks for watching, my name's Mark, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.